You're listening to Chillworthy,
a podcast where two best friends discuss mysteries, murders, and anything in between for your enjoyment.
So if you're ready to hear some chilling and unsettling cases, you're in the right place. Happy listening. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Chillworthy. We are in Season 2, Episode 3, with your hosts, Brent and Talia.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing today?
Doing well. How about you?
Same answer you always give.
Yeah.
I'm good, too.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Very chilly today. It's nice.
Quite
Crisp.
so. So, I am about 95% done with another one of my books. Actually, the book that I was telling you about, I did finish that Western book.
Are you all right?
What the hell? I'm so old, I just tried to shake my head and I sprained my neck. Oh.
I'm so old.
That's what your 30s will do. So, what was I going to say? Oh, the Western. Not my speed at all. Not my speed at all.
Last you were talking about it, I thought you were like waiting for, okay.
Right, waiting for the horror to start. No.
I think this was a different book. I'm telling you.
I went back and like looked it up and they called it a gothic horror.
Oh, okay.
Which is like, like atmospherical and that's not for me.
Not your cup of tea.
No, but I will say that I also started another book, and I'm 95% done with it, which is called Creep.
Okay.
By Jennifer Hillier.
Okay.
And I'm definitely like that. This one's a good book.
That's
for
up
sure.
your alley.
Yes.
Is it? Go ahead.
It's quite adult.
Yeah. Oh.
It's about a college professor, a woman who is having an affair with one of her teaching assistants.
Male or female?
Male.
Uh-huh.
And she then gets engaged. And
to him?
No.
Yeah.
To another person.
Uh-huh.
And, basically wants to break it off, and he's not such a huge fan of that idea.
The kiddo. Is not.
Well, he's what, like 22, 23, something like that?
A kiddo to me.
Well, right, but yeah. So, I think it's a good book. It kept my attention the whole time. And actually, I think it might be returned to Libby
I've
tomorrow.
Gotta talk about that shit.
And I only have like 25 minutes left, but it can't go away yet.
Right.
And that's going to be a real bummer if they just take it out, of my phone, but...
Well, they will, I assure you.
No, I know they will.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I hope it doesn't happen within the next 5 hours.
Well, if you look on the app, it will literally tell you how many hours you have left. It tells you what the time is of return.
I don't know what that is at the moment, but...
Well, I feel like once we're done here, you're going to be in the car for a little while.
No, you're right.
Like a few times today. So I feel like you could... get a few minutes done each, then, before bed.
I've been doing that, actually.
Before bed.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't
scare
you.
Which, that's all... No.
Roll your eyes.
It doesn't scare me, but I have to be careful because if I start falling asleep, like I don't like to be, I'm not interested in that, like, I'll fall asleep to a chapter. Like, no, if I'm listening, I want to know what's going on.
Absolutely.
And it will sneak up on you.
Excuse me.
Doing 4 hours.
Oh.
And I'm at 94%.
You better get listening.
I know.
Stat.
And I'm going to listen on double speed, so we'll be fine.
Okay. Yes,
I will see what happens.
Bed tonight with that time frame. Good you checked. Well, so speaking of that predicament you could have found yourself in. So I think I brought up about the space one that I was reading called Orbital. Was good. I was super excited about it. I read a lot of hype about it. It's not as good as I was expecting, but I'm enjoying it, right? But then, as I got closer to the end, it was picking up speed. I was really enjoying it, and it freaking just evaporated on my Kindle. And I misjudged, I don't know what the hell happened, but it is gone. So I had to go back on a list again to be able to finish it. And I still haven't finished it. It's still not available. Oh, I'm so pissed. It said 8 weeks was the shortest wait. I went on it. How they figure any of this out? Apparently, my library has since acquired 8 additional copies. So I started as like 274. Now I'm 230, and it's what a racket. So that happened. I have since started. Oh my God, the Grace Year. It is so freaking good. It's basically, I would say, the best description of 2 things. Actually, I think 2 that you know. Obviously, Hunger Games.
Yeah.
The Handmaid's Tale.
I mean, I watched it.
All of it.
Not all of it, but many seasons.
Yeah. I would say it's a combination of them. It's dystopian. I'm not quite sure where we're at in the world. Like, you know how Handmaids was like felt dated, but it was obviously futuristic. They still had the fancy cars, even though they're, you know, they're referencing the old world. They're referencing differences in language, and it has some like melting pot qualities, but you don't know exactly where they're at. But there's like wagons, and there's hunting, and it's hard. I don't know, but it does seem modern at the same time. But basically, girls get sent out into the wild when they're 16 because they're believed to have like magic that
sounds nice.
Needs to be rid of.
Sounds not nice.
Right. And it is gruesome, but fantastic so far. Loving that. And I finished We Used to Live Here.
Oh.
2 stars. I was going to do 3. And then the more that I thought about it, I thought, nope, no, this is going to be a 2. And it killed me a little bit to do, but I was correct. I was proud of myself with what I said in the last episode, that I suspected she and Charlie were not together anymore. And I'm glad I didn't look at you when I said it. But actually it worked out.
But for different reasons than what you were thinking.
Correct.
Right.
And I liked, but I thought that was one of the things that fell flat. Like a lot of it at the end fell flat to me. And that was one of the things, like when she and Charlie are on the phone at the end and she's like, you know, why did we break up? And Charlie's like, you honestly don't remember. And Eve's like, no. And Charlie goes, you just broke up with me and left. And I'm thinking, that's the reason? Like, I thought it was going to be that Eve came after her aggressively, or she just really snapped. She snapped. Oh, my God. But I mean,
we don't want to say too much.
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry.
Come on now.
Yes.
Let's
Spoiler.
be responsible.
Close. Yes. Yes. But what was cool when I made that prediction in the last episode, what happened in the book right after that, when I read that night, contradicted that. So I was like, oh, I was wrong. I love being wrong. Like, great. Things are looking up here. Anyway. So, yeah. And, yeah. So, yeah, Libby can be I'm very grateful for Libby.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Right, but still a pain in the ass. And
yeah, because they're strict,
Hostage.
You know?
Yes, they sure are. They don't bend.
And really quick before we dive into today's case, there was a movie, and I have seen this advertised so many times on Amazon Prime, but I just have never, like, I tried to like watch the preview, and I was like, it doesn't, I don't know. But last night I watched it, and I gotta say, it took like 40 minutes.
Oh, geez.
But then the next hour of the movie was so much better, and I was like really glad that I actually watched it.
You hung in there.
Right. It was called Blink Twice.
Scary.
Is
this the Josh Hartnett one? No.
I don't know who that is. Channing Tatum.
I don't know who that is.
So the brief synopsis is, it's like there's like this millionaire, billionaire person who has a private island. He's at this event, and these 2 people who are like the waitresses for the event end up getting close to him, like, you know, whatever, meeting him. He kind of takes a liking to one of them. He's super sweet. Him and a bunch of his friends are going to the island, quote unquote, for a little while, and he invites them to go with him.
Seems nice.
Right. And they get there, and it's like this big, beautiful island. And I mean, you know, everything is like super fancy, and there's staff. It's not, you know, it's not like
deserted.
Right. No, none of that. But it is his private island, and things, you just assume it's going to be one of those things where it's like, they're going to start like trying to hold them hostage or whatever. And, and I'm like, when is this going to start? When is this going to start? And like weird things would start to happen where like she would be at dinner and she would get like a stain on her dress. And then a couple, like, you're watching it and then a couple hours go by in the movie and then the stain's not there anymore. And she like notices it, but she's like, oh, that's weird. And like, so, you're not quite sure what's going on. And then, like I said, it's like, I don't know if it's like 30 or 40 minutes, but something happens. And then I feel like the entire movie like flips. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is actually a pretty good movie.
Wow.
So I would highly recommend anybody who's interested as like for like a thriller, kind of psychological thriller to watch Blink Twice.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Sounds
You'll
nice.
never watch it.
I might.
Maybe.
I was just going to say, could I watch it before bed? But I think the answer, if I ever have to ask that, is no.
There are definitely some like trigger warnings for people.
Thank you. Okay. Nice to know.
But again, I can't say more than that because
You don't want to give
I
it
shan't.
away.
Right. All right. So I don't know where my phone is with my notes. I think my dog's laying on it. Yes.
She
there we
keeps
go.
dozing off. Like I'm looking at her, and her eyes will be closed, and her head starts to dip, and then she wakes back up.
Yeah, Becca.
Wakes back up.
She, I have marmalade in her little sweater today, and I told Talia that when she's in this little sweater, it has a little turtleneck. I said she just reminds me of like, like a wealthy woman in Maine, going to Chico's.
It's a Hardy sweater.
It's a Chico's kind of day for her. Anyway. All right, so let's jump in. Okay, so this case is a little multifaceted.
You like those.
I do.
Yeah.
So this is the case of the Slender Man stabbing.
I'm sorry?
Right.
Okay.
Now, first off, just by that reaction, I'm assuming you've never heard of Slender Man.
Oh, no. I thought that was just...
It's not a description
That's
of who
what
got
I thought.
stabbed. No.
I thought, well, that's kind of strange.
Okay, so we're going to start with that.
Okay.
So the Slender Man is a fictional character that originated as part of an online contest to create like paranormal images.
When?
I want to say in the 2000s.
Oh.
So, but over time, this specific character just gained a lot of popularity and became a central figure in a bunch of different things like internet folklore. And there's like, have you ever heard of creepypasta?
No.
That's like, it's on Reddit. It's a subreddit where people submit scary stories.
Creepypasta.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's where that story that I think you have never read, but I said it was pretty good, and you were like, I can't. That book, Stolen Tongues, about the guy and the girl who go to like a mountain cabin, and they start hearing voices coming from outside, and every night gets closer. And
yeah. Whispers.
Yes, and
No, thank
footsteps
you.
and
Yeah,
stuff. I mean,
no.
footprints, yes.
Nope.
So that's where that I think originated, and it became a book. So.
Wow.
So, like I said, the Creepypasta community, it's an online collective of writers and readers and fans dedicated to creating, sharing, and enjoying short horror stories.
Sounds delicious. They must be Italian.
Often in the form of urban legends, supernatural tales, or unsettling fictional accounts. The term creepypasta originated as a mixture of creepy and copypasta, referring to text that gets copy and pasted across forums to spread eerie stories.
That is cool. That
So-
is cool.
So like I said, the community basically thrives on platforms like Reddit and, but you can also go on YouTube and have them read to you and stuff like that. So
Like a, what do you say? A guided meditation.
something like that.
That probably is a thing for some people. It relaxes them.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's where this Slender Man, he came about because there was a contest, I guess, of coming up with scary stories. He was one of the stories that came about. So I guess like why I'm explaining it like this is because he isn't like Krampus that has been around for hundreds of years.
Right.
Like, this is a relatively new thing. But it was like just this phenomena that happened online because people were so drawn to this character.
Which is insane that it took off like it did.
Yeah.
If you created Skinny Man, please write to us.
I think we know who did.
Oh, shit.
I'm not sure,
So not like
though,
anonymous.
So he was created June 10th, 2009. And I guess the platform was on an internet forum called Something Awful. And the creator was Eric Kundsen.
Okay.
Knuddsen. But he had a online pseudonym, Victor Surge.
Different.
So, and the contest was users were tasked with... Oh, actually, I'm sorry. It wasn't a contest for stories. It was a contest for pictures. Users were tasked with editing everyday photos to make them appear paranormal or creepy. And so this man contributed to this contest 2 black and white photos featuring a tall, faceless figure in a dark suit lurking in the background of scenes with children.
Oh, my God. No wonder it took off. This
right.
is highly
you have
disturbing.
Visceral reactions. You're throwing your head around and... the creator added captions to the photos, and he kind of created this sinister backstory for the character. So he said that this person was called the Slender Man, and he basically said he was a mysterious, otherworldly entity that stalks and abducts children. And so his traits are he is obviously slender. He's quite tall. He has a featureless, pale face and long, tentacle-like appendages.
The featureless face always bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
I find that deeply troubling.
Okay.
I don't know why.
I didn't ask.
Right. Well,
No,
good,
I have no
guess.
idea.
Yeah.
So his behavior is basically like he causes paranoia, madness, and illness for those who encounter him.
Illness. Sore throats.
Or... I mean, maybe I was thinking more mental illness.
Probably,
but
yes.
Sure, strep throat also. And his powers or like whatever, whatever he does is abduction, mind control, or the ability to manipulate his surroundings. So that's a backstory of this person.
Yeah.
So people really, like I said, took off to this. He's made appearances in like YouTube videos. He has... there's like I think there is a video games that he's in. Like, so he's become a pop culture kind of phenomena. Yes. So, and I'm telling you all of this for a reason, which is like, because this leads into the case, but he's very popular amongst the younger generations.
The kiddos.
Yes. So, because this Slender Man lore reflects how that, like, all these internet communities can create and now perpetuate like modern day myths. Just how like all these storytellings, like I said, of Krampus and stuff, all that stuff came from so many oral traditions so long ago. And it's like, now when you think about it, the amount of time it took for those oral traditions to like spread around, that can happen in snapshot comparison now with freaking TikTok.
True. You're right.
So, but it really gained like huge notoriety after 2014 because of a real life case that happened where we will get into, but it was called the Slender Man stabbing.
Highly bothersome.
Do you have any thoughts on just the Slender Man stuff besides his faceless features before we jump into what the actual case is?
Well, only that I'm like perplexed on how this could, like, how is this going to end up being a case? Because this is like a fictional, like legend. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming the way you were, what did you say, stabbing? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking, is someone alleging that they didn't stab someone and this supposed skinny man, slender man did? I just can't imagine where this is going. So I'm very intrigued. And that's all I have.
I mean,
to
that's
say.
not a bad theory what you just said, but
Thank you.
You're welcome, but it's wrong. So, all right. So here we go. This is the case. This happened on May 31st, 2014.
Oh, so quite a while from his origin.
Yeah.
Origin year.
What? So 11 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So this case involves 3 teenage girls.
Ugh.
So all of them were from Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is a suburb of Milwaukee.
Okay.
Now, is that where Laverne and Shirley took place?
I don't know. I'll ask my mom later. That was one of her favorite shows. I didn't think you were ever into that show or
I really
knew about
wasn't.
it.
I really wasn't. But
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that opening scene of like beer bottles and stuff.
I have no memory of that. I have no memory. Like, I have seen several issues. What am I saying?
I have no idea.
I've seen several episodes of that show. Not that I recall them really, but like, I know I've watched it. I had no clue what state it took place in or city or anything. And I have no memory of the opening scene really.
All right. Well,
shit.
anyway, that's
Yeah.
where they're from. They attended Horning Middle School. So here are the 3 people involved.
Okay.
We've got Morgan Geyser, born in 2002. She grew up in this, in this town. She was described by those who knew her as intelligent but very introverted. Then we have Anissa Weier, also born in 2002. She was described more as socially awkward and struggling to fit in, but she found comfort with her friend Morgan. And last, Payton Leutner, Leutner.
Probably.
But she was referred to by her close friends as Bella. Once again, also born in 2002. She was described as a bright, kind, and outgoing child. Payton was known for her friendly demeanor and her ability to make connections with others quite easily. She became close friends with Morgan in the 4th grade. They had some interests that they shared and bonded over. And Payton, being naturally inclusive and welcoming, she welcomed Morgan into their friendship, despite Morgan's shy and introverted nature. Mm-hmm. However, Payton reportedly began feeling uneasy about how close Morgan and Anissa's friendship was becoming. So that's a little background on the 3 of them.
So they were little girls. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were, 7? 2002, and then, what is this, 2009 you said?
No. They were born in 2002, and this happened in 2014.
Oh, my God. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I thought 2009, and you said 11 years ago. Stupid. My math, as usual.
So.
And you know it.
Anyway, they were 12 years old at this.
Got it. And
at the time.
Middle school, not elementary.
You're just.
Oh, my God.
I'm literally just watching as Talia just casually sets her mic down on her lap.
I forgot.
grabs her water bottle and just starts sipping on her water bottle, talking to me as if nothing's happened.
I forgot we were. I'm thinking we're just talking. I forgot. When your eyes started to like bug out of your head looking at my mic, I thought, what's the problem? Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
I'm really trying to get off the runway here, but
right.
Basically, there's 3 12-year-old girls in Wisconsin who the story's about.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so now we're going to get to the incident.
Right.
So here we are, May 31st, 2014, Wisconsin.
Memorial Day weekend, typically.
Sure. All right, so the 12-year-olds, Morgan and Anissa, carried out a very shocking crime/attack on their friend, Payton. Yes. So.
Not at all where I thought this was going.
Right.
I thought they all went missing together.
No. So the girls had spent the previous night at a sleepover together to
all 3 of them.
Yes.
Okay.
To celebrate Morgan's birthday. So this plan between Anissa and Morgan was premeditated.
It was her birthday.
Right. So they basically were fans of this Slender Man. Fans to the point where they thought that this Slender Man was real and he was speaking to them and telling them things, and they would sometimes see him out of the corner of their eye and stuff like this.
Shadow creatures.
Right. So they thought that in order to prove their loyalty and devotion to him, they needed to murder somebody.
What the hell? Like, how do you even come to this conclusion and thought process and belief?
Anyway, that's what I'm saying. It was predetermined they were going to do this. So, the attack. So, after playing games and spending time at Morgan's house, the three girls decided they were going to go to a nearby park in the next morning. So, Morgan and Anissa basically lure Payton into a, I guess, heavily wooded area in David's Park under the pretense that they were all going to play hide and seek.
Ugh. Did you like hide and seek as a kid?
Not as much as like tag.
Oh, you liked
Tag was my jam.
Were you fast? Clever?
I mean, I'd like to... I don't know how clever you have to be at tag, but it's pretty straightforward. But
right.
I would like to think I was fast. I was a big fan of freeze tag, you know?
What was that?
Freeze tag would be like if you were it and if I was it and I tagged you, you had to like stay frozen then in place, and then the other players could unfreeze you by coming to touch you, you know, but it was always like, then you run the risk of also getting caught by unfreezing you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the winner of the game, if you won, would be that you froze everybody.
Oh, shit.
You know?
I could see that being up your alley.
It was fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, I guess I should ask you, though, were you a fan of hide and seek?
No, I was not.
Fine. What was your favorite childhood game?
Bombardment.
I've never even heard of it.
It's like dodgeball.
Oh, well, I loved dodgeball.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Edward 40 Hands. A classless game.
Those were in my later years.
Yeah. All right, so they lure her out to this wooded area. They're going to play hide and seek, or so she thinks. Horrible 12-year-old. My God.
Torturous. Evil.
So, once in these secluded woods, Morgan and Anissa basically ambush Payton. Morgan was the one that held the knife. And Anissa,
where were these parents?
Well,
they think they're at the park, I guess.
Well, they were at the park.
Well, true, with knives and on a witch hunt for freaking poor Payton.
Yeah. So Morgan was the one holding the knife. Anissa encouraged her to carry out the attack. Payton was stabbed 19 times.
This is a real story. True story.
Yeah. With injuries to her arms, legs, and torso. And one stab wound came extremely dangerously close to her heart. I think it only missed it by like a centimeter.
Oh my gosh.
Like if they would have hit that major artery, that would have been it. However, that wasn't it. So following the stabbing of Payton, she was left in the woods basically to die while Morgan and Anissa ran away. Of course, I guess Payton was still sort of conscious enough that these two girls basically said they were going to go get help. And,
I see.
And left her, yeah.
Did they say this like later on, or did she also
confirm? I might have that later on my notes. They definitely said it, I think, but I don't know about her. So they leave her there, and their intention is to travel to the Nicollet National Forest, which I guess was kind of close, because they believed that now that they had done their duty, Slender Man would welcome them to his mansion that apparently he has in these stories. So they were on their way to be welcomed into Slender's, as they called him, mansion.
Slender's.
Where they would live with him.
They believed this.
All right, so now back to Payton. So, as I alluded to, she survives. So despite her severe injuries, Payton managed to crawl out of the woods and onto a nearby road. And a passing man on a bicycle found her and called for help.
She is a survivor.
Of course. Payton was rushed to the hospital and she underwent emergency surgery, which did save her life. But, I mean, imagine freaking 17 times or 12 times. What did I say?
Her little body.
16 times. Ugh. So Morgan and Anissa, they were located hours later near Interstate 94, walking away from the park. and they were arrested and questioned. Because I think at that point, Morgan had said, oh, sorry, not Morgan.
Payton.
Yes. Payton had said, like, my friend stabbed me.
Which is not funny. I'm not laughing.
I was going to say, what the hell?
I'm not laughing because it's funny. This entire...
But it's absurd.
Oh, this story is outrageous to me. Like, I cannot believe it's real.
Yeah, I know. You've said. So during the interrogation, both of these girls described their belief in Slender Man and claimed that the attack was this way to appease him. And they both believed that if they did not do this, he was going to harm their families.
I see. And, like, where is this being thought up? Who the hell... Oh, my gosh. I don't even know. It's like a mind control... This is insane.
That is one of his powers.
Oh, my God.
Just so you know. So this incident brought national and international attention to the dangers of internet... Basically, these internet folklore things.
Sensations.
Right, yeah. And the influence on young kids. And it also raised awareness about mental health issues in children and the implications of when disorders go untreated. Because they both seem to have some mental issues.
Yeah, things went bonkers real fast.
So here we are now, June 2nd. Charges are now filed and stuff. So on June 2nd, 2014, just 2 days after the attack, Morgan and Anissa were officially charged with attempted first-degree intentional homicide in the Waukesha County Circuit Court. You're looking at me really weird. What's wrong?
Nothing. I thought you were looking at me weird, and that meant something. What you just said, I thought that was weird, or I think that's the town they live in.
We both think it's weird, right?
Right.
No, I don't think it's weird. The charges reflected the premeditated and violent nature of the crime, as the prosecution argued that these two girls had planned the attack for months, making it an unusually severe case for children of their age.
1,000% agree with that.
Yes. Which, you know, when you think about that last case with Brian, he was only 17, and he had also, like, not pre-planned the murder, but he had...
his intentions.
Pre-planned to do a murder when he had the opportunity.
Exactly. And I don't know. Never mind.
So, like I said, despite being only 12 years old at the time, both of these girls were charged as adults. And so under Wisconsin law, severe crimes such as attempted first-degree murder, first-degree intentional homicide automatically placed juvenile defendants into the adult court. So this decision was pretty significant because... It subjected the girls to harsher penalties than they would have faced in the juvenile system, obviously.
Of course.
So Morgan was identified as the primary aggressor who physically carried out the stabbing. Prosecutors focused on her direct role in basically using this knife and inflicting 19 stab wounds on Payton. And then for Anissa... although she didn't actually physically stab Payton, she was accused of encouraging and assisting Morgan in the attack. Prosecutors emphasized her role in convincing Morgan to follow through with their plan and helping to lure Payton into the woods. So, like, you know...
the mastermind.
Right. I mean, she was certainly not innocent of any of these crimes. She just didn't actually take the knife and do it.
Right. But she sure as shit wasn't helping Payton as this whole thing was going on. My gosh.
I think that's exactly what the prosecutors said. In those exact words.
I know. This is horrific. It is.
I don't disagree.
I just can't believe any of this. Like, even if this skinny man bit wasn't part of it, but that just makes it even more... absolutely absurd, to use the word you used earlier. It is like, I cannot wrap my head around any of this. Like, that they did this, their ages, this was their supposed friend, and then the basis for why they're claiming they did it. I just can't. I can't wrap my head around it.
Mm-hmm. So both girls appear in court for their initial hearings. And obviously, due to their young age, I mean, this attracted a lot of media coverage and all that stuff. Their bail was set at $500,000 for each girl. And the prosecutors had argued that they posed a significant risk to the community based on the premeditation of the attack and their belief that this mythical Slender Man was true, which I think is a pretty good argument.
Oh, yeah. And they feel that they're, like, serving him. Like, they have to carry out what he expects of them. And And
Well, yeah, this concept that they think he's going to come after their families.
that's what I was just going to say.
Like, even if you're thinking, okay, well, these girls, right, were mentally ill and they were doing it for what they thought was the right reasons. Let's pretend of like saving their family. It's like, okay, well, that still means though that you might do it again.
Exactly. Trying to uphold the well-being of their
Right.
family members.
Right.
Yes.
So-
Yes.
Now, as I said, because they were tried as adults, that was a little bit controversial because of their age. So there were advocates for the juvenile justice reform that argued that the girl's age and susceptibility to this quote-unquote fantastical thinking, not exactly the word I would use, but merited handling the case in the juvenile court. But then, of course, on the other hand, the severity and the premeditation led others to say, like, hell no, they need to be adults, and that's the route we went. So from the outset of this, the defense attorneys highlighted the significant concerns about the girl's mental health. So like Morgan, for example, exhibited signs of schizophrenia and delusional thinking, which her family later revealed ran in their family history. And Anissa demonstrated a strong susceptibility to influence and a deep belief in this fictional character, Slender Man. And this was like raising questions about like her understanding what is reality versus what is not. So this was like a pretty long and complex legal process that ended up happening. So on August 1st, 2014, a county judge ruled that Morgan was not competent to stand trial. So this decision followed a psychological evaluation that revealed her inability to understand the court proceedings or assist in her defense due to these severe mental health issues. So this evaluation indicated that Morgan was suffering from early onset schizophrenia.
I was going to say, with her age, when that started getting floated when you said it, I thought, well, there's no way with how young she is. Not that it's impossible, but right. Like, talk about freaking early onset.
Talk about it. And yeah, I mean, it is a very rare, severe mental disorder for her age, for sure.
Yeah.
Symptoms include hallucinations, delusional thinking, and impaired reality testing. Check, check, and check.
Absolutely.
The reports also suggested that Morgan genuinely believed in the existence of Slender Man and feared that failure to appease him would result in harm to her and to her family. So under Wisconsin law, a defendant must be competent to stand trial, meaning that they have to understand the nature of these charges against them and be able to assist their legal counsel in preparing a defense, and the judge's ruling suspended Morgan's prosecution indefinitely pending improvements in her mental health through treatment. So the treatment that was ordered was Morgan was committed to a state mental health facility to undergo treatment, which of course I'm getting flashbacks to Girl Interrupted.
Oh my gosh, that is a fantastic movie. Susanna Kaysen. If you have been with us since the beginning, you will know what that means.
And if you haven't, we will not be explaining it. We haven't got the time. So the goal of the goal of sending her there was to stabilize her condition and determine whether she could eventually become competent to stand trial. So they were going to do this through medication, therapy, and psychiatric care. So that was what's going on with Morgan.
Yeah.
So the ruling by this judge marked a turning point in this case because it basically underscored the central role of Morgan's mental health in both her defense and the overall proceedings. And it raised a bigger question about the intersection of mental health, like mental illness and criminal justice system, especially when it came to violent individuals who were young, under like when they committed these things under delusional beliefs.
Right.
So, all right. So now we are at December 19th, 2014. So on December 19th, 2014, a judge now ruled that both Morgan and Anissa were competent to stand trial.
Yowza.
So this decision came about after months of psychological evaluations and treatment aimed at addressing their mental health issues and assessing their understanding of these legal proceedings that were going on. So after being declared incompetent earlier in the year, Morgan had undergone intensive treatment in a state mental health facility.
As a kid. you know?
Yes. So her condition, including symptoms of early onset schizophrenia, had reportedly stabilized enough for her to understand the charges against her and for her to be able to assist in her own defense. But despite improvements, Morgan did continue, though, to display signs of mental illness. But regardless, the court still determined that she had reached the legal threshold, at least, for competency. So Anissa had been under evaluation to determine whether her belief in Slender Man and susceptibility to the fantastical thinking impaired her ability to comprehend reality. But unlike Morgan, Anissa did not have a diagnosed psychotic disorder, but was found to be deeply impressionable and influenced by Morgan's delusions.
So no diagnosis at all. Nothing.
Doesn't seem it.
That does not sound good for her.
So evaluators concluded that Anissa did actually understand the nature of her actions and could meaningfully participate in her defense as well. So just so that we know, in terms of the Wisconsin courts, a defendant is deemed competent if they can do two things. First, that they understand the nature and objectives of the court proceedings. And second, that they can communicate effectively with their legal counsel to mount a defense. So this decision, though, did not address whether Morgan or Anissa were legally insane at the time of when the crime happened. That issue would be decided later in their trials. So this was just like that they're good to go,
able to stand
for
trial.
their trial. Right. So the prosecutors were happy about this decision.
Of course. They wanted to burn her at the stake, I'm sure.
Well, it allowed the case to obviously move forward and pursue justice for Payton,
True,
who was
right.
actually harmed,
Right.
just so you know.
Good
But
call. Yes.
they maintained that the girls' premeditation and the severity of the crime warranted that they should be tried as adults. So the defense raised concerns, though, that their client's mental health and vulnerability was still a problem. And they emphasized that while the girls were technically competent, their mental states at the time of the crime and during the trial would be central to case. So like what I guess we're saying that they're arguing that like, you know, they can stand trial, but a lot of it is focused on the fact of like whether they were or were not able to do this, I guess. Like, not responsibly. Like were they responsibly able to murder somebody? But you know what I mean? Like so much,
mind.
right. So much of the case is revolving around the fact that like, are they or aren't they competent basically?
Right.
For what? But anyway, so this is the decision that happened. And then the public's reaction was sort of mixed, I guess, because some members of the public were like relieved that this case could finally proceed, while others were still questioning whether two 12-year-olds, particularly Morgan with her mental health history, still should even be facing an adult trial. Like,
Right.
So it was very mixed.
And these aren't like 16-year-olds, even 15. The fact that they were so young, I don't know. This is like a real tough one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's like you want to be sympathetic, but then how could you be with what they did? And they certainly seemed like they knew what they were doing, but then you have, what's his name? Stickman?
Slender Man.
Right.
You know, I've noticed you like to taunt these type of entities. You know?
Would you say that?
Well, you said you're open to visits from somebody we're not going to mention. You specifically
Mary.
don't care enough to say this man's name correctly. I feel like you like to taunt these things.
I
We'll agree with you there.
I love Scary Mary, and I don't think I'm trying to taunt her at all. I respect her, and I hope that's what I was getting across.
It wasn't.
Okay. With him, this one in my head is
Stick Man.
Is like, well, what do I care? Because some man or someone thought him up in his living room. Like,
You're right.
So
but
I'm not at all. But like we talked about earlier in this episode, like that's how basically this century is going to come up with these sorts of myths.
absolutely. Right.
So, but I can't take this seriously.
I gotcha.
It's just hard for me to feel that this is reality.
Right. All right, so now preparing for the trial. So both girls deemed competent now. The stage is set for the next phase of the legal process. So the defense teams prepare to argue for diminished responsibility based on mental illness, while prosecutors focused on proving the calculated and deliberate nature of the attack.
Right.
So they do have to like work out this balance between addressing mental health and ensuring accountability for freaking violent crimes. Now we get to September 25th, 2017. So on September 25th, 2017, Morgan agrees to plead guilty to attempted first-degree homicide as part of a plea deal.
I was just going to ask that. Thank you.
Of course. As part of a plea deal to avoid jail time.
Oh.
The plea was strategically designed to account for her severe mental illness and ensure her placement in a mental health facility rather than a prison.
Fine.
One could imagine, I guess, that's the better of the two choices. I mean, not that I'm saying those places are
picnic.
Right, are great either, but
right, but yeah. Well, and for a child, I mean, you would think, yes, that would be, I suppose, the lesser of two evils. I don't know. And now, what was the length of time supposed to be for the sentence? So why did you look at me like that?
Because I don't know, man.
Well, I just meant in terms of like age 40, age 50, age 20. She, I assume, needs to be reevaluated.
I assume so as well. Maybe we'll come across it in my notes.
Okay, that's fine.
These notes are a little while ago created, so
Right.
please excuse me.
Thank you.
I do know that statistically, no, I don't have any statistics.
Statistically speaking.
All right, so Morgan did plead guilty to the charge, but was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect.
Oh, wow.
So this agreement acknowledged her responsibility for the crime while also recognizing that her schizophrenic diagnosis had significantly influenced her actions. So then there was some expert testimony and evaluations during the case that demonstrated that Morgan did suffer from severe delusions and hallucinations. Her belief in the fictional person known as Slender Man and the fear for her family's safety were key factors that influenced this plea deal. And like I said, she got to avoid prison time because this deal guaranteed that Morgan would be sentenced to treatment in a psychiatric facility rather than incarceration. And both prosecution and defense recognized that her mental illness required specialized care. So, prosecutors were supportive of this, and they emphasized that public safety would be maintained through her confinement in this place either way. Morgan's attorneys highlighted her age at the time of the crime and her diagnosis of early onset schizophrenia, arguing that prison would exacerbate her condition rather than rehabilitate her, which I think is a fair statement to make.
Yes. And just anyone in that environment and adjusting to it, never mind someone that young, never mind that mentally ill. I just think that would have been catastrophic in what could have happened.
And then, of course, as I've been saying this whole time, the public reactions are always mixed.
Of course.
So there's never going to be an issue where public reactions aren't mixed. So
well, of course, and like we keep saying with this one especially, the fact that they were kids and that people are going to be, you would think, more sympathetic. But then when you look at what they did, how can you be sympathetic? You know, it's such a fine line.
Right.
You don't want to defend them, but and of course, no one's going to defend them in their actions, but the justification in them and just how off base the whole thing sounded and like what they claim, you know, impacted their decision making. I don't know.
Well, you'll be happy to hear that I do have in my notes what the length of time was.
Oh, thank you for Morgan's sentence.
You got it, sister. So this plea deal obviously, you know, made it so sentencing could occur. And obviously part of that sentencing was the courts determining the length of time she was going to have to be in this mental health institution. Would you like to guess at all?
I'm going to go with maybe like reevaluate things when she reaches 18 and see if she's suitable for release. Like not just this is the amount of years she's getting released at this time, but that because of where she is, they like a psychiatrist has to basically clear her, but this can't actually be considered to even happen until she turns 18.
Okay, well, that's not what happened here. They did just literally sentence her to a specific amount of years.
They did?
In the psychiatric facility. So,
right.
Right. So going off that knowledge, any guesses now?
Well, I disagree. I don't even understand how that can be because
She goes, I disagree.
with the sentencing.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But
how can they, what if she's literally spiraling and completely unstable by whatever you're going to say right now? They're just going to still let her out? That doesn't make any sense. That's very irresponsible of them.
All right, so I've asked twice for you to just give me a number. You're obviously not going to.
20.
Shame on me.
20 years old, I mean. Like her to be age, I guess, 18 or 20.
And yet you still refuse to just give the amount of years. So it's fine. I'm going to tell you right now. 40. 40.
40?
The final decision came in February of 2018 when Morgan was sentenced to 40 years in a state psychiatric hospital.
40 years.
Yes. And for those listening, that was the perfect little window into how most of our conversations go on and off this podcast. There's ups, there's downs.
I said 6.
Heated, chilled.
Yeah, you're correct, man. When you're right, you're right.
And I'm right. So anyway, and it's shame on me because I asked for your input.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to engage you, and I should have just kept trucking along.
It was way too wide open.
All right. So like I said, on February 1st, 2018, Morgan is sentenced to 40 years in a secure state mental health institution after she pled guilty to attempted first-degree intentional homicide. But, like I said, she was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. This sentence reflected the court's recognition of her severe mental illness and the potential risk that she posed to herself and others without proper treatment.
Very strange sentencing, I have to say. Like, not guilty, there's still confinement, not in prison. Like, I just think this was handled in a fascinating way.
So the 40-year commitment for this treatment meant that Morgan would receive treatment at a secure mental health facility rather than a prison, and they put the Wisconsin Department of Health Services in charge of overseeing that this was actually happening and that they were following through on this. So that's who was,
Overseeing.
Right.
Yeah.
They did allow for periodic reviews to assess her mental health and determine whether or not she would be continued in confinement or not.
Thank you. That was my question.
Right, I know.
I'm still shocked at the length of time, though. Like, with her age and what that sent, I don't know. I was not expecting that.
Now we're jumping again to July 1st, 2021.
Jeez.
So now this is about Anissa, who's been hanging out in that mental health institution.
Yeah.
So on July 1st, 2021, Anissa is granted conditional release from the Winnebago Mental Health Institute, where she'd been held since 2017. This decision came after a court ruling determined that she no longer posed a significant threat to herself or to others.
Now, riddle me this, though. That 4 years was not part of her sentencing. She was literally awaiting trial for 4 years.
Right, I think
sitting.
so, yeah. However, her release was subject to a strict supervision and monitoring to ensure public safety and that she would continue with her rehabilitation. So Anissa had petitioned the court for her release earlier in 2021, citing that her progress in treatment and her adherence to the conditions of her confinement, like that she was meeting them and
compliant,
she felt like she was doing good, I guess. Yeah. And she argued that she had gained a better understanding of her actions and the factors that led to the attack, including her belief in the fictional Slender Man.
She was 16 by this point. I mean, literally grew up in, it's so sad. All the way around, this one is so sad.
So the court reviewed the expert testimony and reports from the mental health professionals who evaluated Anissa during these 4 years at the institution. And the evaluation did indicate that Anissa had responded well to treatment, was no longer experiencing delusional beliefs, and had developed insight into her mental state at the time of the crime.
Wow.
So the judge ruled that she could safely re-enter society under a structured and supervised release program.
Supervised by who, though? Like a sort of probation department,
well,
her family?
That you say this because we just are getting into the conditions of the release.
All right.
So, Here are the conditions.
Okay.
She is to be under supervision until the age of 37.
I was going to say, this is a little off when you think of what the two parameters are for both girls with sentencing. Like, she really wasn't, well, I guess this is really her sentencing, but sitting there for those 4 years. Meanwhile, Morgan, who is mentally ill, diagnosable, it's just crazy to me, the difference in terms of release, but keep going.
Anissa was required to remain under supervised care until she was 37 years old and adhering to these strict guidelines. She was also to have GPS monitoring. So she was outfitted with a GPS tracking device to monitor her movements.
Until she's 37.
It appears that way.
Or no, I guess older than, you said 37 years, not her age would be 37,
No,
correct?
37. Like turned 37.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She needed to have regular mental health check-ins. She was also required to live at a specific location approved by the court, and she had to comply with curfews.
So not living at home from now until she's age 37, or you can only live at home with your parents until age 30.
Well, I think they just had to come to an agreement. I don't know where that was, but it was
everyone had to agree.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
so,
okay.
I mean, maybe it was at home or, I don't know,
Yeah.
a group facility or something.
Right.
She was strictly prohibited from contacting Payton, which I think is nice, or her
Absolutely.
family. And in terms of her employment or education, Anissa had to maintain employment, attend school, or engage in another structured activity as part of her reintegration into society.
Right. So there were a lot. I mean, there were a lot of
yeah.
expectations here put in place, which I think sounds good.
So, of course, Payton's family had, not the best reaction to this.
I'd imagine.
They expressed some pretty big concerns about Anissa's release, fearing that, she would possibly reoffend or fail to comply with these conditions. The family emphasized their ongoing pain from the attack and, were basically like, is this even appropriate, to reintroduce her into society?
Now, did it say if she failed to comply with any of this, what was she looking at? What?
Oh, God, I can't wait for it to be your turn. I really got to get on the ball with these. I'm going to start pre-thinking about, I'm just going to ask you question after question. Because I feel like sometimes you think I'm like a college professor who's like this is my dissertation, I've studied the Slender Man case. Come on, man. We're all trying to learn about this together.
Me too.
Right, but all right. What? Oh, I don't even know what your question was, but did she follow all of it?
No. If she doesn't follow any of it, what is hanging? Is it immediate?
Well, I'm assuming she's going to go back into.
I wondered, is it that, or is she going to be remanded to jail? Is that going to be reconsidered? Are they going to have to? Is there going to have to be?
You know what? Maybe we'll find out in my notes. Oh. All right. And shocking here, public opinion was mixed on this. That's all I'll say about that.
Okay. To be expected.
Yeah. Now I have a little bit of a thing on her post-release life.
Oh. Yeah.
Anissa's life post-release has been subject to ongoing monitoring, as per what they said. Reports indicate that she has complied.
Oh, shit.
With the court's conditions. But the case does remain a focal point in debates about juvenile justice and the effectiveness of rehabilitation efforts for young offenders. Huh. So it appears that she's still on track, although I do not have what her punishment would be.
If she were not compliant.
Right. And keep in mind, I'm not saying it's a bad question. I just don't have the answer.
Well, thank you for saying
you
that.
are more than welcome. Now, another time jump. We're back to Morgan now.
Oh.
January 9th, 2025.
Wow.
Morgan Geyser ordered to be released from the psychiatric hospital.
In 2025.
2025.
Well, so much for 30s.
No, that was
Right?
that was Anissa.
40 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
So, On January 9th, 2025, a county judge ordered the release of Morgan from the state psychiatric hospital where she had been confined for nearly 7 years. So, medical experts and psychologists testified that Morgan had made substantial improvements in managing her schizophrenia. Her treatment regimen, which included antipsychotic medication, therapy, and counseling, helped her stabilize and develop insight into her past delusional beliefs. Reports indicated that she no longer posed a threat to herself or to others.
Can you imagine signing off on that? Like knowing what she did?
That's a lot of responsibility.
Yes. And just sending her off into the community. And not only earlier than was expected, but significantly earlier. I mean, she didn't even serve 10 years.
Now, just before you ask, there are conditions, just so you know.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear them if they're available.
So, just quickly, Morgan's attorney filed a petition for release, arguing that her continued confinement was no longer necessary, and the court thoroughly reviewed her treatment records, expert evaluations, and, as I said, just agreed, okay.
Let her out.
All right, now the conditions of Morgan's release are the following. Ongoing mental health monitoring. So she had to participate in regular mental health evaluations and therapy sessions as part of her release plan. And she was also required to make sure she was continuing to take her prescribed medications and follow the treatment recommendations. She also had supervised living arrangements. So it was ordered that she would reside in a supervised living situation, ensuring the transition back into society safely. They also gave her restrictions on movement and contact. So Morgan's activities and movements were to be monitored, and she was prohibited also from contacting Payton and her family. And lastly, her progress and adherence to conditions was to be continuously reviewed by the court periodically. So those were her conditions for being released.
Yeah.
And the judge emphasized that this decision was not made lightly. Good.
Right. Thought it through.
And basically it was based on all of the evidence provided from the experts and the reports from Morgan's consistent progress in her treatment. So obviously, again, Payton's family had reactions to this. They had expressed their concerns, basically the same concerns they had, with Anissa. And just about how, there are risks about reintroducing these girls into society. Could they offend again? And basically just the emotional impact it was having on their daughter as well as them.
Oh, she must have been absolutely terrified. Just feeling like she was in a nightmare. I mean, at least she would have had sort of like a mental reprieve. Obviously, I mean, who knows if she was dreaming about this, having... I'm sure PTSD from the whole thing, but at least knowing they were both confined, I would imagine brought her some sort of peace. I can't imagine not, yeah. Right. And then now it's oh, surprise, they're out and about.
Morgan's legal team, they obviously thought of this as a major triumph.
Of course.
And so, yeah, now basically both of them are out and about.
Did it say, which I'm assuming not because you didn't read it for either of them, but I'm curious, could they not have contact with each other, Anissa and Morgan?
I can't imagine they could have.
Right.
That would be a recipe for freaking disaster. Although it didn't say specifically.
Only about
But come
Payton.
on.
Yeah, I know. It might have been. Well, and honestly, both of these families, and I feel like for how young these girls were, I would certainly hope their parents were like, hell no, you're not having contact with each other ever again.
Right.
We're done here.
So basically, they both remain under close supervision, and that is where we have it. But that's the case of the Slender Man stabbings, as far as we know as of now.
This was wild to me. Wild. And this is not a singular thing where people, whether they're children or adults, get sucked up into a story like this. But how sad, truly. I mean, Payton is the victim in this, but honestly, Anissa and Morgan as well, with just the, that their sense of reality. And I know Anissa, didn't have the diagnosis, but still something was not quite right mentally that she was that impressionable. Like, that's not normal childhood juvenile impressionism, you know?
Right.
It's just very scary. And these poor parents, all the parents, Payton's trying to keep her safe. Morgan and Anissa's not knowing what the hell is going on. I mean, can you imagine? And obviously Morgan had the mental health history, but this was, of course, an extreme, what do you say? Like an extreme
circumstance?
Thank you. Of it. But then Anissa, who didn't have that history, I don't even know. Just heartbreaking for truly all of them and their families.
Yeah. And I also think that it's fascinating how, like you had said earlier, and I had probably said at some point too, but just how in this modern time, like this is how urban legends are now spread, you know? Like,
oh, yeah.
Instead of however many years ago when it was word of mouth.
Telling stories.
Right. And that would obviously take a much longer time to spread than it does now. I mean, with one click of the keys,
wildfire.
Everybody can have, you know, everybody. It's just, you know, and then of course it's like crazy to just think what other stories are developing out there that are going to turn into urban legend very quick, and or if any other people have been affected by this guy. Like, I didn't look into that in terms of, like, you know, did anything else happen with anyone else because of this exact kind of concept. But, and I wonder what the creator must think.
Absolutely was crossing my mind.
Obviously, though, he didn't create it for this.
Not his fault, of
right.
course.
I'm just saying, but like
no
it is kind of like,
there.
Oh shit.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's all, I guess too, with this one, it was just, you know, tomato. Everybody has different, like, basically very early on what you and I said in this show, like, what triggers you compared to what triggers me. We couldn't be more different in what easily sets one of us off and the other one doesn't bat an eyelash over it. Like, it's crazy the differences. And it's like that. It's, you know, I hear this and I'm thinking, this sounds absolutely foolish and stupid and absurd. Meanwhile, there are people out there trying to kill people that they are so sucked into the belief of this entity. It's insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Oh, well, this was a wild ride.
It was wild.
A real tour de force. Oh, God. A real tour de force. Yeah, right?
De France?
Oh, yeah.
Not
Dorothy.
de Ford, de Chrysler.
Oh,
a real tour de
show.
Chrysler.
Oh, my God. Well, good job. That one had a lot to it.
It did have a lot to it. And it wasn't, most of it was after the fact. It wasn't necessarily exciting, like not like the one before. Good grief. That one was full of
twists and turns.
Wow.
Different
spikes,
parts of town. Yes.
Yikes. But yeah, this one was mostly just like, how did they handle it? But I still think it's fascinating about,
I agree.
You know.
I agree. And that it had that like supernatural angle, you know, was very interesting.
Except in reality, it didn't have any supernatural angle. That's the thing. Like, there's nothing unexplained about it.
Well, no,
you know what I mean?
I meant in terms of like that Morgan thought that something in her eyes supernatural was calling the shots.
Right. Yeah, I guess.
Or influencing, I guess. Not calling the shots, but that influence.
But anyway, all right. Well, you know, I guess everybody, until next time, it's been a blast.
Yeah.
So, what is on your hand?
Oh, God, I don't even want to look. It's going to scare me.
It's bright blue. What is that? Oh, it's the freaking... I thought I was hallucinating.
It's stick men.
Talia's microphone light was like shining into her palm, and I thought, what am I seeing here?
And I was like thinking, oh God, what did I put my hand in? This is mumbo jumbo.
All right, see, that's our time to call it quits. So, all right, thank you everybody so much, and as always,
stay safe
and stay chill.
Bye, everybody.
Have a great day, everybody. You've just listened to Chillworthy. Thank you for joining us on this latest episode. While we strive to keep our discussions engaging and lighthearted, we also wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the real lives and events that are at the heart of these stories.
We try to approach each topic with a sense of curiosity and respect, fully aware of the impact these events have had on the individuals and their loved ones. Our goal is to honor their memories by keeping their stories alive and shedding light on the mysteries that surround them.
If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, and don't forget to join us on the next episode of Chillworthy.